Good day. In the early hours of Friday, January 9th, Russia carried out one of its most significant aerial assaults since the war in Ukraine began. But this attack stood out, not because of how much was destroyed, but because of the message behind it. For only the second time in the conflict, Moscow launched its Orshnik hypersonic missile, striking western Ukraine just 60 kilometers from the NATO border. Military analysts confirm the missile carried dummy, inert warheads. This was not just an attack. It was a warning, aimed far beyond Ukraine. According to Ukrainian air defense officials, Russia launched 36 missiles and 242 drones in a coordinated overnight assault. Kyiv was hit hard. At least 4 civilians were killed. 3 thermal power plants were struck, causing widespread blackouts across the capital. Diplomatic property was also damaged, including the Qatari embassy. But the most sensitive strike occurred in Ukraine's Lviv region, a critical energy hub located dangerously close to NATO territory. Then came the defining moment. The launch of the Orshnik hypersonic missile. Before we go further, if you want clear, verified updates on global conflicts that shape the world, subscribe now. Like this video. Share this report. Because what happens next may affect far more than Ukraine. The Orshnik is not an ordinary weapon. It is hypersonic, traveling at extreme speed. It is difficult to intercept. And it is capable of carrying nuclear warheads. Yet this time, it did not. Instead, analysts believe Russia used non-explosive, dummy warheads, turning the missile into a strategic signal, not a mass casualty strike. The message was unmistakable. Russia was saying, "We can strike here. And next time, we may choose not to hold back." This strike did not happen in isolation. There are 3 major pressure points behind the escalation. First, European peacekeeping plans. Ukraine and several European allies, known as the Coalition of the Willing, announced progress on deploying European peacekeeping troops after a possible ceasefire. Russia reacted sharply. Moscow warned that any Western troops on Ukrainian soil would be legitimate military targets, calling the coalition an axis of war. Second, U.S. sanctions pressure. Reports indicate U.S. President Donald Trump has approved a bipartisan sanctions package aimed at further damaging Russia's economy. The Kremlin views sanctions not as diplomacy, but as economic warfare. Third, a disputed claim. Moscow says the strike was retaliation for a Ukrainian drone attack on President Vladimir Putin's residence. Ukraine and the United States have dismissed this claim as fabricated. Still, Russia is using it as justification. This strike was not really about Kyiv. And it was not really about Lviv. The true audience was NATO. By firing a hypersonic missile near the alliance's border, while avoiding mass casualties, Russia demonstrated controlled escalation. A warning shot. A signal that the conflict could spread far beyond Ukraine. The reaction was immediate. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky called for a clear response from the United States and requested an emergency meeting of the NATO-Ukraine Council. The European Union described the launch as a dangerous escalation, intended to intimidate Europe and Washington. NATO member states near the border, especially Poland, were placed on high alert, closely monitoring airspace and missile activity. Behind closed doors, military planners are asking a serious question. What happens if the next missile isn't a dummy? Russia has shown it is willing to use strategic weapons as political messages. The West has shown it will not retreat on sanctions or military planning. Both sides are testing limits, carefully, deliberately, and publicly. History shows wars often escalate not because leaders intend them to, but because signals are misunderstood. This launch may have been symbolic. But symbols can still trigger real wars. The world is watching closely. Was this the peak of escalation? Or only the opening signal? If you want to stay informed as this story unfolds, subscribe now. Like. Share. Stay connected. Because the next move could change everything. That concludes our coverage. I'm Anthony Liam.